Welcome to Daddies the Podcast, featuring Eric and Greg. Join them each week as they hang with a new guest to talk about who they are, their why, and the stories that come up along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Daddies community.
Just the height of my thing, so that, well, that's kind of splitting the difference, I guess, a little bit.
That's good. We had someone one time, and he was using his phone to record, which is cool. But I said, hey,
Okay.
if you wouldn't mind just doing it like horizontal, because YouTube obviously looks better horizontal, right?
Yeah,
And
okay.
he said, yeah, right on, cool. And then he turned his phone vertical, but then just recorded from here up.
Oh, God.
It was tough.
Okay.
It was a tough record.
We never
Okay.
released that episode. It's in the
I
lost
want to be,
episodes.
I don't want to be the bad episode. I want to be the good episode. So,
So,
already
unfortunately,
how's
better
everything
than that.
sound? Does it sound good so
it
far?
sounds great. Yeah, man.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
And
All right.
yeah,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, thank you for joining us, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you you responding to the old cold call.
Oh yeah, I love it. That's the most fun for me. Hey, I'm kind of geeking out. Like, what kind of microphone is that you have there with a white thing?
So
Greg.
this is a it's the Rode Pod mic.
Okay, I think I just got that. I
Did you?
ordered some stuff from and I have a fantasy of maybe doing some kind of a podcast. My friends have been people have been cajoling me to do one for years, and I just keep talking myself out of it. But you know, I think that I'm coming around to the old, like, you know, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Just do shit and don't talk yourself out of it, and then
For
decide you
sure.
didn't want to do it and change it. You know what I mean? It's better to like have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
Yes, and if you
Yes.
don't try it, at least
Sorry, my
like,
dog is going crazy.
You're good, man.
No, it's okay. We have some really cringy, and if anybody's listening to this, please do not go back and listen to these. I don't want them to ever get any more views. Our original episodes,
Ooh, fuck
good
me, man.
Lord, they were really bad. I hate going back and listening to those things ever. So
Wait, they're worse than this one actually is? No, I'm just joking.
Worse. Like, I don't know how.
somehow,
Well, because
How is that even possible?
technically we're not at 100 yet, and isn't everything
a
up
wise
to 100
man once
sucks
told us
ass?
that your every podcast's first 100 episodes will just suck, and then you
Oh,
can start
man.
kicking out good. It was Jarrett.
Was
from
it Jarrett? It was
Bowling
Jarrett
for
from
Soup.
Bowling for Soup,
Okay.
or
He
was
is a
it?
very wise man.
He is. Or Brian Wecht from Ninja Sex Party. Well, I think it
Oh.
may have been him.
Okay.
Because they both have. Yeah, it might have been him.
Well, and it's funny because, like, so our first episodes, we didn't do video. We said, we're going to do audio only, like true podcast, and you're going to like it. And then
Okay.
we said, hey, at the end, let's eat candy into the microphone, but not have people watch it.
Oh yeah. Great idea.
And holy God, it was like one of those things where, like, if we didn't change that, there would be no podcast today. You know, that was like that one idea that was like, well,
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't do that anymore.
I
Yeah.
love taking shit to the drawing board and then just dropping those
Well,
things.
I can tell you about this idea now because there's no possible way that I can actually do it. Not to be like the total like buzzkill, but like I don't know. Some people, anyone who knows me or follows me on Instagram or whatever, is probably aware by now that I lost my house in the LA fires back in January, which was like so crazy. Just like one of those things you'll probably never. You know, life goes on and you move on and you count your blessings, you know. Thankfully none of us were hurt or anything, but like, you know, you lose everything you own. Like, it's not like your house got broken into and like, oh no, I lost my, like, you know, guitar. Like, it's like literally just everything's gone. And it's not even like you're like purging, like little by little, hey, we're gonna donate some stuff and have a yard sale. So like there's no like slow kind of release and like, you know, parting of the stuff. It's like literally one day you have all this amazing stuff that you've amassed over a whole lifetime and career, and then the next day it's all gone. And it's like just this pile of devastation. So the reason I say that is because I'm fishing for sympathy and I want everyone to feel sorry for me. No, I'm just joking. The reason I say it is because naturally, the fucking procrastinator that I am, I was like kind of doing the Rubik's Cube through the years. Like, well, what would I do a podcast on? I don't just want to be another random dude. Like, there's so many good podcasts out there already doing, you know, and I love talking to people, but I was like, I kind of want to put a different spin on it and maybe make it more of like a variety show. And I had this idea where I like last year, I had this weird kind of like epiphany / anxiety attack where I was like, if I fucking died, like my wife and my kids would like not know the value of all my stuff. And like the punk rock museum, Fat Mike has the punk rock museum in Vegas, and they had come to my house a couple times because everybody knew that I was like the collector guy that just saved everything through the years. I had all these promotional items and just like, I was just that kid who like saved every flyer, every set list, every little like, I would get a guitar pick from a band. I was such a like super fan. And then I became a guy in playing in bands. And I was just this sort of kind of self-appointed historian, because the other ones were just like, dude, that's cool. You're a fucking nerd. I'm going to go chase this girl or I'm going to go get wasted. And I'd be like, well, I'm going to chase girls and get wasted. But first I want to like save all this cool shit and like cut out the things from the little like local weekly magazine that say that our band played here. Like, I don't know why I just cared about that stuff my whole life. I think it's because I got into this whole thing through the portal of first being a fan. And I was like an obsessive fan. I was like the kid who had like my walls and my ceiling covered in posters. And I would get to shows early and sneak in to watch sound checks and stay after, with like my mom parked around the corner so that I could maybe like get someone's autograph or, I was that kid. So when I started bands, it was like, I had that same attitude where I was like, I just want to save all this kind of stuff, not in like a pack rat way, just in a feeling of like, this stuff matters, it's important, and someday it's going to hopefully, if all goes well, and obviously things worked out, relatively well for Sugarcult, which was one of my many bands along the way. It was like, this could matter to the fans. Like it'd be cool to like have this stuff to make a book with or display online or even like have a museum or just like literally give it to people or just whatever. Right. So long story short, I had a whole bunch of rad shit and I was worried that like my kids would just put it in a recycling bin or put it like drop it off at a Goodwill or just like not junk? Even go that far, just literally fucking get one of those like dumpsters you pull up in front of your houses and then just fucking and then just throw everything away and be like, why did he keep all these fucking records? Like, who would want this? No, who has a record player anymore? What has he got all these flyers for? This show happened fucking 25 years ago. Why did he even save this? And then you're like ripping in half like Jawbreaker flyers and Elliott Smith, artifacts and just all this cool shit that I had. And so I had this idea, back to the story, I had this idea where I was like, I'm going to slowly let go of some of this stuff because I had donated a bunch of it or loaned a bunch of it to the Punk Rock Museum. And then I just started to think like, I don't just want to like sell this. I want there to be a story because like having it is fun. Part of the most fun is actually the journey you went on to get it, to find it. They were like sort of touchstones to like open up memories. Like, oh, that was that time I went to this show or whatever happened. And,
the journey is the friends you made along the way.
Yeah, but like having the thing, it was like, what good is it going to do? It's like sitting in my fucking little dust. Like studio man cave thing. And I'm just like, what, like, no one under my roof gives a fuck about this stuff. Although my daughter started getting to the point where she'd like go and find my old like clothes from Sugarcult and like incorporate it into her outfit. I was like, nice. You don't even need to go vintage clothing shopping. Just go look at my fucking stuff. I have it. You'll find it. So she actually took a bunch of stuff, thank goodness, because she saved some stuff that would have otherwise burned in the fire because she had like pilfered it unbeknownst to me, like my leather jacket that I have on in the memory video, the Sugarcult memory video that I wore like all of our touring years in 2004 and 2005. I wore that leather jacket. She had borrowed it without me knowing, left it in a car. And then when I thought I lost it in the fire, I found it in the trunk of a car. I was like, yay, It's still there. Which
That's
is
a relief.
Wow.
Anyway, the point is I decided I was going to do a podcast variety show where I would do kind of like rock and roll show and tell. Someone please steal this idea who has stuff because now I don't have anything. And basically be like, hey, here's this pen that I got when we were hanging out in Japan with the Strokes. And no, actually, it was when we were at the Columbia Hotel in London in 2004, and we were hanging out with Kelly Osbourne, and we went to the Kerrang Awards, and I got like side-eyed by James Hetfield because I was trying to punish him and get a picture with him. And then I ended up getting drunk with a guitar player for Hanoi Rocks, and pushing our way to the front row to see, I think, Sum 41 play. Like, I just have so many fucking crazy stories that are all opened up by the Souvenir, right? And so I was going to do that kind of a show, and then every week do that, and then auction something off and give something away, and then, have a companion website. And that would sort of be almost like the rock and roll home shopping club, where it'd be like talking about it and then be like, okay, so if you want this, it's going to be on my website. Fucking go take it away. And then maybe give shit away too, because, so yeah, that's what I was going to do. But instead there was a fire, and it was in January 7th. And this was literally, I was telling everybody, that's my sort of
Coming
version of a New Year's
soon.
resolution. I'm going to start this show. I'm going to give all this stuff away. I'm going to keep the creme de la creme for myself. Certain things I wouldn't want to give away, but like, this will be a fun way of letting go of stuff. And well,
I can totally
rest is
see some of these things being like posted to a story on Reddit, and somebody says, "Oh my God, I was at that show. It was amazing." Like however long ago, and then that's the person. That's the fan. You want to get that in their hands, and it's gonna make it was a cool story originally, and now it can be like one more good, maybe final.
Yeah, it adds another layer to the story, because it's like the story is like the thing that happened, and then maybe the souvenir you have from the thing that happened, and then you have the joy of having it, whether that souvenir is in the version of a record and you could listen to the record, or a shirt and you could wear the shirt, or like a cool little just whatever thing that you have, like a little poster or flyer, or just cool little toy, or just whatever it is. And then there could be another layer of the joy of actually like talking about it, telling the story about it, and then offloading it to another person to kind of imbue it with their own story, which I think is so cool. And I mean, not to sound too woo-woo, but if you really think about it, that's all ultimately, I mean, no one really wants to go there, but like ultimately that's what all this shit is destined for. Everything you think you have, you're really only just carrying for a little while, including your own fucking cells. And, we're all just this like reconstituted fucking stardust. You know what I mean?
Well, I saw something, and it was like 100 years from now, someone will live in your house. You'll be gone, long gone. No one will remember you, or 200 years, whatever. No one will know who you were. Your legacy will slowly fade to nothingness. So like, enjoy it now while you fucking can, because it's exactly what you said. It just like that, it can all go away, Well, and we, understandably so, but we can get like overly precious about stuff, and overly, we can get overly like sort of self-righteous about like what we think, what we believe, what we have, who we think we are, all these things. And it's like, you're so right. It's like 150 years from now, I mean, you could be like, yeah, I have all these pictures. Yeah, but they're not going to have the fucking ability to act. I have fucking things that I can't even access. I have hard drives I don't even have the cables for anymore.
Right.
I don't think I currently have a CD player. You know what I mean? And it's like, these things will fade away. Your photos will, I mean, you go to like a thrift store, and there's like a bunch of black and white photos from 40 years ago from a bunch of people that once were somebody's child, somebody's mom, somebody's neighbor, somebody's best friend, somebody's lover, somebody's, confidant. And to you, it's just like, you're like, cool, for 25 cents, I could buy this black and white picture of this random dude from the 40s wearing a cool looking hat, and hang it up on your wall. I mean, it's really kind of like part of the beauty of like life and of humanity and just everything and art is that it's all ultimately just made in disappearing ink. It's just that some of the ink disappears a little faster, and some of the, I mean, you go to Europe and you look at like the beautiful sculptures, or you go to a place like, this summer I was in Italy, and I went to Pompeii, and you see this like ancient society that's just like preserved because of the volcanic eruption. And it's a trip to, it's a really interesting thing to kind of commune with, like, wow, those were like people that had like insecurities and told jokes.
Just like us.
Yeah,
That's
we're like,
crazy to think,
some of them were
though.
assholes, some of them were hilarious, some of them were intelligent, some of them were idiots, some of them were closed-minded, some of them were down for whatever, like
Marko,
it's just
I have to ask. So
think about.
I don't know if this is true. I saw so you got to see like the some of the people at Pompeii who were encased essentially, right, in like the ash and became just like these figures, correct? Like that's actually
yeah, that's kind of weird.
So I saw a thing. I don't know if it's true, but it was like some dude stroking it, and it was like at like the worst time that he got caught. Like, could you imagine if that's
immortalized?
Like, oh, come on.
I don't remember that, but I'm guessing that like my theory on that one is that once he saw that, like, all right, there's no fucking getting out of this thing. I tried to run and I just realized there's
Might
no
as well
way.
have one more rub and
At that
tug.
point, he's just like, all right, I'm going down. I'm not going to go
going
down
in,
swinging. I'm
boyos.
going to go down stroking.
That's it. He was doing it for the walls.
I mean, I don't want to be morbid, but like, there's been a time where you're like sitting next to like a hot girl on an airplane, and you're like, the turbulence is kind of bad, and you're kind of like, I mean, if God forbid anything were to happen right now,
This is it.
I'd probably be like, hey, I know we're both married, but I don't know, let's just fucking go for it. Like,
No
how do we want to go
regrets.
out here? Like,
Yeah, right. No
so
regrets
that
if you're
dude
about
Pompeii,
to die.
I mean, the thing about Pompeii that's also kind of weird is there's just like penises everywhere. Like, there's all these sculptures they pointed out to you, and they're like embedded in the like streets. Like, they're almost like you would see a street sign on the side of a building, and they're just like, I don't know if it was like a sign of like power, or it was a sign, or it was like an inside joke, but it was like, it's literally once they pointed out to you, you can't not notice it. It's like everywhere. And you just wonder, like, what were people like? Maybe people just made dick jokes
Just a lot of
for
dicks
thousands
everywhere.
of years. That's
You
just always
read
been a
my
thing.
mind when we were talking about these people that were just like us 1,000, 2,000 years
Oh,
ago. I wonder if they made dick jokes. Like,
I don't know.
is
I mean,
that like if you could travel back in time but not change
jokes.
anything?
Maybe that was maybe they hadn't thought that there was something silly about it, and they were just like, this is kind of a like cool symbol of like, fertility and like,
Probably.
I don't know. Who knows? But it's so weird to like, I mean, just anyone out there like who's checking this out, like just Google Pompeii and like cocks, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, it's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so on
That's
that
actually
note,
my
you guys
favorite
want to talk
part.
about
Yeah.
anything else?
Okay, that was it.
actually.
Thank you. That was great for us.
So we're good. So hey, Marko from Sugarcult, cocks. All right, later. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, Marko? I do have to say, right, and this fucked my mind, young Greg's mind. Early 2000s, Pepsi Smash. Do you remember?
Oh my
like,
God, were you there?
No.
Oh.
But I used to watch it religiously because it was on, what was it, UPN 57 or whatever. It was
Okay.
on like a weird station here. We're in Delaware, right? And but I always, for some reason, thought that you guys were Australian. Just young Greg just assumed Sugarcult. Everyone in Sugarcult was Australian, and then you did like there was like an interview, or I don't even remember who hosted it, but then you guys were talking, and it really fucking confused me with why you weren't Australian. And then I
Why aren't
remember
they using
getting
their Australian accents?
yeah, this is weird.
That's funny.
And then I got in trouble because then I can't remember what song you guys played, but I went on to look up the guitar tab, and I'm like, I'm going to learn this song. And I got in trouble because we still had the dial-up internet, and my mom was like, you can't get on. It's 8:30. You got to go to bed. And I was like, all right, Mom, I'm going to sleep. So I went on to AOL, logged in to try to download the tab, and then I got grounded. So,
I love it. I love when Sugarcult contributes to juvenile delinquency.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what rock and roll is all about.
Right.
But
Pepsi
yeah, like,
Smash, was that the one where we played with was Kanye one of the other guests on the episode we were on?
so what year would that have been? Like 2004 or 2003?
It might have been 2003, because I'm pretty sure we hadn't made Palm Trees and Power Lines yet, and we had our original drummer Ben, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Alicia Keys.
So Alicia Keys was there for sure. I have a picture with her and the band Switchfoot, who are like from California.
Aerosmith?
Wow.
It says Aerosmith. If it's on the internet, it has to be true.
No, Aerosmith definitely wasn't there. I mean, because I would have known about it.
Black Eyed Peas?
No, but Kanye West was there, and
it has Kanye.
He wasn't really famous yet. He had just made that record where he
through the wire,
his, like, mouth wired shut. So he had performed with his mouth wired shut and could rap like with his. That was his kind of. That was like, oh, you know, Kanye West, the guy with his mouth wired shut. Like that was who he was at that point. And obviously, there's been so many iterations ever since.
That was the best Kanye West back then.
Yeah, the one with his mouth wired shut. Let's go back to that era.
And it was hosted by Nick Zano.
Okay.
I don't know who that is. Like, I just remember because I remember it was every week. And then, like, the week after you, I think it was like Blink-182. Like, it was always like, and like Yellow Card. Like, oh, these bands, I love all these bands right now. That was like peak young Greg, like just getting into music.
That's
that
cool.
was like, we didn't have YouTube yet. So, like, I had to watch it and then record it like VHS, you know, like put the tape in. Hit recording.
Didn't have TiVo?
And go,
that's amazing.
TiVo? We didn't have TiVo, man. We had, here's a VHS. You put it in and record it.
Wow.
But yeah, like that was my shit, man. And that was like,
amazing.
I think the first, I never actually got to see Sugarcult live.
Wow.
No, my dad never let, like, it would have been like Warped Tour would have been the look. And like, he was very much, well, I don't want to stand outside for 18 hours, you know, so you can't go. And I was 12 maybe, so like he wouldn't drop me off. It would, the closest one would have been Camden, New Jersey. So like I never got to experience you guys, man.
Oh, man,
I know.
All right, well,
so
we were incredibly not very tight, but we always put on a pretty energetic show. We kind of like prioritized putting on a fun show. Again, going back to the thing of like starting out as fans, it was like we're probably gonna fuck up anyway, so we might as well put on a fun show, an energetic show, and then if we fuck up, we fuck up. But at least we're fucking up while we're like midair doing a rock jump. Because I think bands,
no one cares.
You can take it so seriously, and it's like, again, we were saying 150 years from now, no one's going to remember we ever exist. We had to remind ourselves, like, the sort of reset was always like, this is rock and roll. Okay, this isn't like fucking
classical piano.
Yeah, this isn't like the Philharmonic.
Right.
Like, we're here. This is about energy and attitude, and obviously you want to play the songs well, and we would like over prepare, because I always felt like we sort of internally felt a little bit like maybe inferior musicians, so we sort of had to like over prepare just to be able to show up and barely be able to keep up with, it's like the old saying, like, what did they say? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like you don't want to be the best kid on the soccer team, because then you're never going to get better,
Right.
And so it's like, we kind of were like, let's try to hang with the big boys, but like, we're going to have to rehearse like 2 hours for every 1 hour they rehearse, And then we would go out there and just do it and have fun. And every show was, luckily we never got to the point where it just was like I saw this with other bands, and I would always kind of watch other bands and be like, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure we're not doing that. And then I'd see them do something cool, and I'd be like, we should do that. Less of that, more of that. It was always kind of like trying to refine it. And one thing I hated was when I started seeing bands that would just kind of phone it in, and like maybe kind of almost do it like it was a Broadway musical. Like they would say the same thing in the same place every night, the same way. And I just feel like, I don't know if I'm just old fashioned this way or just overly kind of hopelessly romantic, but I just wanted every show to be like, I mean, there's lots of shows where we play the same set and like maybe wear the same clothes, but like, I just wanted every show to really, I mean, that's the whole point of it being live. Like so, we never had a click track. We never had tracks. It was always just like plug in, go for it. And, maybe extend one part, maybe cut something else, call an audible. It just try to make every show feel like this like unique experience that could never be, like if you were there, you got to see it. And if you weren't there, maybe you can see it on YouTube or something, but you kind of
if
had
you
to
weren't
be
there,
there.
you missed it. And you could see a
And
different one a different time.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's certain like artists I'll go see. Like I saw, I'll go see the Rolling Stones every chance I get, just because I can't believe like you can go see the Rolling Stones in the fucking year 2025. Like it's insane. Like they've been around for like 100,000 fucking years.
Right.
And I'll go see them 2 nights in a row when they played in LA recently, and both shows were so different. One guy was having a great night, the other guy on one night, the next night, the other guy was having a great night, and you didn't even notice the other guy. Like each show just had its own energy because they really are like playing live. And like they're gonna do some different songs, and it's gonna be a different. Every show just feels. I've seen them so many times, and they seem to always have a different vibe.
I don't know. It's so true though. I've said this multiple times, but one of my favorite bands are the 1975. Every time they come around, I will go and see them. But
I've only seen them once.
And I love Matty Healy. Like I just think they're great. However, their shows are very much so like the scripted. Like I know he's saying the same thing in this show that he's going to say tomorrow night in Maryland that he's saying in Virginia.
That their favorite place to play isn't actually in Camden, New Jersey?
Like, it's the same, and I've been noticing that more recently going to concerts. Like you can tell it's very much scripted instead of like when I would go to see like, that's why I love seeing like Social D or like somewhere where it's like they're just coming out and playing and then like, all right, bye, just getting off the stage and that's it. I don't even need an encore. Like just play. I love now that a lot of bands are also like, we're skipping the encore song and dance. You get 3 more songs and then fuck off, and then everyone just goes home. But yeah, so I and then on the other side of that though, like I used to see Brand New a lot when they were touring, and you could tell those motherfuckers never practice, and they would just jam on stage, but then like it would kind of sound like doo-doo. And so I'm sitting there and it's just like, oh man, we got like 2.5 more hours of just like them like, well, fuck, like we're just, and none of the songs sounded like, and
that gets a little self-indulgent, doesn't it?
I don't know. Like I know it works for like the Grateful Dead, but like
they're literally
that's what
they do.
Like the appeal of something. Like people go to the Grateful Dead because they want to see this sort of jam session. But you go see a band like Brand New, it's like you want to hear the songs. And that's like I went. I think now that I'm saying it, I'm like, wow, I said the Rolling Stones, and now I'm about to say Bob Dylan. It's like I'm mildly obsessed with going to see legends. Like I feel like those guys, those like people from the 60s and even the 50s, like there's legends today. Like I think the 1975 are going to be seen as legends. I think there's so many amazing artists, but some of those like architects, like those ones that just like, they were just the ones that like, they just pioneered this whole culture. And I think it's just like I said, it just blows my mind that you can actually go see these people perform. I just went and saw Paul McCartney play in my hometown in Santa Barbara, like maybe like a month and a half ago. He played like a warm-up show, and it was the most money I've ever paid in my life for a ticket. But it was like, it was one of those things where, especially after the fire, I'm just like, you know what, dude, one life, one chance. It's fucking Paul McCartney. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to do this, and he's doing it. And it's in my hometown in front of like less than 5,000 people.
Wow.
And I'm just going to fucking put it on my credit card and just pretend
I'll worry about that later.
Yeah. It's like, it's times in my life where I've held off on things like that. That's when you get like a speeding ticket and you're like, fuck, I should see it. I just flushed that money down the toilet. I could have used it for a ticket to something. Anyway, He was amazing. The Stones were amazing, but I went and saw twice now. I've gone to see Bob Dylan, and it's like, I love Bob Dylan. I love what he stands for. I love what he did culturally. But like when you see him live now, it's like, I mean, it's kind of a thrill to be like, whoa, there's that guy. And like, I'm in the same space as him right now. And he's this like historic person. We're probably going to be, he's like in the small, maybe category of people that won't be forgotten about in 150 years. Like people will be talking about him the way they talk about Chopin and Leonardo da Vinci and Shakespeare. There's a few of these artists from the 20th century that, probably Miles Davis and I don't know, maybe like James Brown, hopefully, Frank Sinatra, I don't know who the fuck, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, and so it's a thrill to see him, but it's so frustrating because literally you have no idea what song he's playing. and he'll play the most like random arrangement of some song that's like his giant hit, like, Times They Are a Changin', and you'll be like 3/4 of the way through the song before you realize what song it even is.
You're like,
'cause he just
hold on, I know
fucks
this
with so
one.
much.
I know this one.
It's like unrecognizable. It's like when you see, it's like when you see someone who's like 90 years old and then they show you a picture of them when they were like 25 and it just looks like a whole different person.
Right. That's not you. Yes. Well, was it? I think it was, I heard Kings of Leon. They did, what was their, Sex on Fire, and what was their other like one really big hit?
Use Somebody.
Use what?
Yeah. Use Somebody.
Use Somebody.
Yeah.
And they would go on tour and play hundreds and hundreds of shows, and they said, guys, we're tired of playing these songs. Like these 2 songs right here, we're going to play some different stuff and we're just not going to play that. And people got pissed because they went there to go see those songs. Like those are the favorite songs. So in some way, you're kind of married to your success, right? You like have to check those boxes no matter how tired you are of it.
Well, I mean, you don't have to do anything, but I think you also don't have to go on tour. You don't have to play shows. Yeah. You don't have to sell hoodies.
Right.
You know what I mean? So sometimes bands can get really like, some artists can get really high and mighty about that kind of stuff and be like, we're not going to play this. And it's like, okay, but I remember when Sugarcult first started getting some like momentum, and we kind of like crossed the threshold into the professional realm where we were actually like, rather than just being a local band playing like in front of our friends, we were like a professional band. We could, the band was sustaining itself, and it could like, we could make a living doing it, and we didn't have to like have day jobs. And when we got to that point, and things started to really gain momentum, I had a friend of mine who had toured like as a crew member in some other band a few years earlier. So he had a little bit of touring experience, and he just gave me the best like wisdom. I mean, I think he was paraphrasing the quote he probably heard from someone else or maybe read somewhere, but he said to me, he's just like pulled me aside, and I don't even know him that well. And he's just like, hey, Marko, just congratulations. Everything's going great. It's so rad. I can't believe I'm so happy for you. You've been doing this for years, and I'm so happy to see it's finally working out and people are digging on Sugarcult. And he just said this one thing to me. He's just like, just always remember, you don't have to do this. You get to do this. And it was just like, it just struck me. And I was just like, okay, I think I know what he's talking about. And then as things went on, and we'd be like in those situations where you're like writing the set list, and someone in the band be like, oh, dude, we have to play Bouncing Off the Walls. And I'm like, we get to play Bouncing Off the Walls. We get to have a song that we made up before when we were just fucking broke, kids playing in a local band. We get to go somewhere anywhere in the world and play a song that we made up and have a whole bunch of people sing along to it and be excited and be stoked. We get to make people happy, stoke them out, be part of the soundtrack to their lives. Like, we don't have to fucking play it. We get to play it, and then it'd be like, all right, you guys, it's like freezing cold and it's snowy, and it would be like, we have to fly to England to go and open for Blink-182 on their arena tour. And I would just rephrase it. I'd be like, no, dude, we get to fly to England. It's not like, oh, we want to be home for the holidays and chill, and like, it's going to be freezing in England, and like people drive on the other side of the road, and the, beer's not that bubbly, and the fucking, mayonnaise tastes a little off. Like, people get so spoiled. It's like you forget how many years you sat in your room with like air guitaring with a tennis racket, jumping on your bed. And then you started in your shitty little bands with your friends in your garage, learning how to play. And then you started another band that shoulda, coulda, woulda made it, and for whatever reason it didn't. And then you get another one. And then finally you get this band that actually like gets traction and goes out there and starts to make stuff happen. It's like, you always have to keep yourself centered like that, and not like, whatever, not like let that get to and that, to me, that goes to like, just shut the fuck up and play Creep. I don't care how fucking avant-garde your new record is, Radiohead. People want to hear Creep, and no one, and you wouldn't get to make those records had you not made the song Creep. So
well,
shut
I
the
don't
fuck
want to
up. Put
disappoint.
on your big boy pants and play it.
I usually only disappoint like just my wife, like one night a week, maybe. I've never disappointed 10,000 people all at one time, right? Like that would suck. Like, why would you want to do that?
But
I know.
well,
I mean, to be the devil's advocate, like, artists are supposed to be leaders. We are not supposed to be followers. And I think too many artists are like, in my opinion, artists can be too fucking cooperative, where they're just like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to look, and this is what I'm supposed to say, and this is how I'm supposed to behave, and this is how I'm supposed to, and this is what this genre wants me to do. And I like it when people like, stick a screwdriver in the spokes every once in a while and fuck shit up a little bit. Otherwise, everything gets a little too homogenized, and everyone's, I like when artists, lead, but when it comes to, like playing songs in front of a crowd of people that paid for tickets, if they're there to see you and there's a few songs you have that are really beloved by them, it's like, would it kill you? It's like, it's a little give and take. Like, hey, we're going to play some new shit, but don't worry, we're also going to play Bouncing Off the Walls in memory. So like, let's go back to like, you said like, I'll disappoint my wife. It's like, I'll disappoint my wife. It's like, sometimes you're like that when I'll be like talking to my wife and it'll be like, oh, you want to go to dinner? She'll be like, yeah. I'll be like, what do you want? She'll be like, sushi. And I'll be like, God, you always want to have fucking sushi. Like, can't we have something different for a change? And then just, especially when you're both hungry and you just turn into this big, like, and then she'll be like, well, where do you want to go? And then you'll be like,
just an asshole.
Like, maybe
nothing sounds good.
Like something like Middle Eastern might be cool. Oh, that doesn't, let me look. No, you can go there if you want, but I don't want to go there because there's nothing I'm going to eat. And then you just end up like having sushi.
Yeah, you just go back. Well, I'll tell you,
you're like, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy?
We went to a concert years ago, and I mean, talking 13 years ago, and I can't remember who it was, but they played an entire album that they hadn't released yet. So, and no other songs. So everyone's standing there just like looking around. They're like, this is another new song called so-and-so. And it was the most not fun that I've ever had at a
Everybody's
concert.
just kind of like this, like,
because I like to do that anyway. I'll just fold my arms and bob my head now anyway.
But tough guy.
Like, I don't even think I was doing that. It was more just like looking around, like, do you know this one?
Have we heard this one
No
yet?
one knows any, and they played for like an hour. Like
that happened to me when I went and saw The Cure. Like recently, they played a couple shows at the Hollywood Bowl, and I mean, I'm like somewhat of a pedestrian Cure fan, but like the people I was with were pretty hardcore Cure fans, and they played a long set, but there was a few songs I kind of was, oh, I love that song, I love it, and then they played for like maybe almost an hour of songs that were just like the B-sides of like the deepest fucking cuts and like maybe unreleased stuff, and it was just
Here's
like
our drummer's other band's hit
it
single.
was so in the weeds. And like, maybe if you were like at some really cool small little theater seeing them play some intimate thing where like that was the thing you like bought a ticket for, like, hey, check it out, come see The Cure, they're only going to do obscure songs. And then you're like, but when you're like at the Hollywood Bowl and you're just like expecting, and it was literally like, it got to the point where you were like, okay, cool. Like there'll be like 3 or 4 of these, and then they're going to play something familiar. And they just never did. And it was like, somehow it wasn't endearing. It was kind of frustrating. And even like hardcore Cure fans were like a little bit like, and then of course they like threw in sort of for dessert at the end, they threw in kind of a medley of like, Boys Don't Cry and Just Like Heaven and all the like big hits.
Oh, we know these ones.
Yeah, but it was almost like, you were just like, man, you could have balanced
it too little,
that
too late?
But artists will artist, and you sign up and you go for the ride. I think that no one ever gets to have songs people know until, we all started out with our songs all being brand new, to somebody the way you've never heard it before. So you have to give artists the certain amount of grace. But I think like, I don't know. I mean, if we were to ever make another record or something and you had the impulse where you're like, hey, let's do a show where we introduce where we just play the new record to people, I would make that very obvious. And it would be like, this is a show at a really small place where you're going to be like hanging out rent out like a rehearsal studio or something. You're going to be invited, and you're going to be hanging out. and we're going to be working on the songs, but like, we're going to not play them for you. We're going to be like working on them. Like, wouldn't that be fun? Come see like a band working on their new album. And so it's like, you're not seeing this like polished thing where you're hearing a bunch of songs that are all polished that you don't know. You're in the room and you're like, I'm like stopping and going, do you guys think I should play this or this? And people are like, I kind of like that. And then someone else is like, can I get up there? And I'll be like, well, you can fucking play it. And then like, that would be fun. Like make a whole record with a room full of fans.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That is a unique idea.
Yeah, right.
That reminds me, we were talking earlier about how, if we fuck up a song, we fuck up a song. My favorite part, I like watching a TV show or a movie, but I love watching bloopers. And I love seeing just the characters, they break character, the actors do, and then they go, that was funny. Those are some of my favorite parts, or SNL when they break and they start cracking up and they start laughing. I'll especially laugh when they do that. But I like to see the human side of it, it just brings you back. So I love the idea of that show, though. That would be like a rehearsal space show.
And
amazing.
I feel like because of social media, maybe, I feel like the fourth wall has kind of been broken anyway, in that, I mean, there's still there's still something to be said for the mystique of like a Prince or a Bob Dylan or even like a Jack White, where they just feel kind of a little bit larger than life. But I feel like, people are kind of here for the idea of like, okay, we get that you're a superstar, but we also intuitively know that you're a human being. Like when you see like Chappell Roan fully like dragged out doing her thing, and then you just see her like as this like chick in her 20s with her hair pulled back and a t-shirt on. And it's like, both things can be awesome. It doesn't have to be like, we never see Chappell Roan without her makeup on. Like, it's just like, I think that's so cool. And I wish more artists would do stuff like that, where they would just like, I wish Radiohead would make a record where they just like, or even a song where they just are playing acoustic guitars. Like, we're making a record with no electricity. It's going to just be a room mic and acoustic guitars and hand percussion. And wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be an affront to their whole age of like, and I love all their avant-garde shit, but wouldn't it be fun? Or even if it wasn't Radiohead, even if it was like, I don't know, like some electronic artist, like, I don't know, fucking Diplo or something, just make a record all with hand percussion and like, stomp, clap, acoustic instruments. Wouldn't that be fucking cool?
Right.
Yes. I don't know.
Well, and the human side of people is kind of like why Eric and I, when we started bringing guests on, so we didn't always do like it was just the two of us
eating candy.
Eating candy. But then when we started bringing guests on, we're like, well, why don't we talk to individuals that we want to talk to and just talk about everything and anything, right? Like whatever, instead of just like, so tell us, what was it like writing the first album? Like, we can sit there all day and you can tell us, the first song you ever wrote, but like,
questions have been asked.
Those questions have been asked multiple times. And so like, obviously if you want to talk about it, cool. But like also just getting to talk to you, right? Getting to talk to anyone and just kind of hearing about them and seeing that human side is great. And that's why, to Eric's point, like I love live music, because you get to see that human side of people. That's why I love going to like Broadway shows and like concert. Any sort of live entertainment is my my jam, my jelly, my peanuts, and my peanut butter.
Just like Pompeians that make dick jokes.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
all comes back to that.
It is fun, and I think it's also really cool that even in this day and age where we have so many different ways to be distracted or entertained, or just there's so many compelling options. People can play these fancy video games or watch all kinds of things on their fancy TVs, or there's just so many possibilities that somehow everyone still, well, not everyone, but so many people still want to just, it's almost like moths to a flame. Like people are just somehow like connected to the primal, the same. Like I feel like the live show and festivals and live, whether it's music or like you said, a Broadway show or like a play or modern dance, performance or just whatever it might be, people are still drawn to it. And I think that's where you realize like, man, evolution is a trip. Like we, for so many thousands of years, we just like lit a fire and sat around it. You know what I mean? And so like, to me, that's like that's kind of our era's fire. It's like fireplace. It's like a place where people can gather and like be sort of unified by something, whether it's like a DJ or a rock band or a singer-songwriter or whatever it is. And it's kind of cool. I mean, it's
no, it's really cool.
Whatever. Like who knew we're human?
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah.
Marko, you've brought up like DJs or electronic music a couple times now. I have to ask, have you ever been to like an EDM show or anything like that?
Oh yeah. I'm so enamored with especially music that I don't necessarily know how to make, although I have done DJ gigs.
Cool.
I still don't really, it's still very like mysterious to me in the same way that like maybe rock music was mysterious to me when I was a kid, where you're like, wow, how's that done? And then you want to figure it out. I went to a jazz show the other day. It was really interesting. Like, instead of being like in a crowd, you're just like, there's like, you're brought to a little table and they come and take your order. And you're sitting there and they're literally just like these insane musicians, where like every single thing they do is, you'd be happy if you ever did one time in your life, and they're just like doing it like, and you're like, God, okay, so humbling. That was cool. And I love going to like, I love seeing amazing DJs. And it's really cool to see. It's really magic at what they can do. I've definitely been to a lot of those types of things, and they're cool. They're cool. And, I don't know, maybe to a fault. I just have like really eclectic taste. Like, I love all kinds of shit.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
To be
it's good
totally
to have
fair,
variety.
like the music that Sugarcult sort of got like lumped in with is probably like, if I go see bands that we would be considered to be like in the same genre as or whatever, like if I go see like, I mean, I love Green Day. I'll go see Green Day any chance I get, and they become like friends as well. But like, there's certain bands like, all the bands that we used to play. Look, Kiki, shush. Sorry, my dog's going off.
You're all right.
There's certain bands that we used to tour with, like, like maybe Simple Plan and Good Charlotte and Yellow Card and Sum 41 and Newfound Glory and All American Reach. Like, most of those bands, even Blink, it's like, if I go see them, it's more just to go like say hi to like the guys in the band and their crew, and maybe like, just sort of just dip back in. But like, with all due respect, because obviously all those bands have made great records and are very good at what they do. But like, that's not what's on my playlist. You know what I mean? Not because I don't, and it never really was. But because we got kind of like coupled up with a lot of those bands, you end up seeing them every night. You end up getting to know them as people, and I think that's the weird thing about artists is like, once you get to know, that's maybe why it's cool that people like you do podcasts like this. Certain people have their preconceived notions, like they have their minds made up about the artists that they think they like or think they don't like. And I think if you get a few layers closer, sometimes you can sort of like recalibrate some of those preconceived notions. Like, there's a lot of bands I thought I didn't like, and then we toured with them, and I was like, they kind of grew on me.
Sure.
And it's also because you meet them as people and you realize, like, I think that's maybe the litmus test. Like, when I'm listening to music, a lot of times I think what really strikes me about something is when I feel like I believe it. Like, that's almost like the litmus test. Like, do I believe it? Like, Frank Sinatra didn't write any of his own songs, but when you listen to Frank Sinatra, you fucking believe it. And you're like, this guy is singing this. It's almost like a really good actor where you're watching somebody and you can't believe you've completely, when you're engrossed in the middle of like a 3-hour-long movie, you completely forget that is not that person someone's about to say cut, and that person's going to jump on their phone and be in their trailer and be suddenly named, like, they're going to be named John again instead of the part they're playing, and that's fucking wild when someone's that good of an actor. And it's like that too with like great pop singers, even, like where they can just get up there and sing. I mean, sing anything and it would be fucking incredible, it's cool.
And I see a lot now, like especially on TikTok. I'm not a big TikToker, but I do find
I haven't dipped in. I'm afraid of it.
There's a lot.
If you haven't yet, you're probably fine not ever.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just like people going up to like I think it was like John Cena, and he was clearly just trying to eat dinner with a friend, and they're like, "Oh, John Cena's being a dick because he's not taking pictures with me." And like I hear a lot of celebs like will be like, "Don't bother me if I'm eating with my kids," or like I don't know. Like I feel like being able to still be that human, and like people I think need to have that respect and show those boundaries. Like I know it's difficult, especially if you see a famous person, like you want to run up and get that photo. I know, right?
God.
Yeah. No, it's a weird thing. Once someone kind of, like I said before, it's like no one has to do this. You don't have to become famous. There's clearly something, about you that it's not like, well, how am I supposed to play music? Well, you could play music in a very anonymous way. You could be a producer. You could be a session musician. You could be in an orchestra where no one really knows who you are. You're the one, there's a certain amount of like, and I'll be the first to admit, like, I didn't just want to be a musician. I'm also very like, I probably got sent, to the principal's office more times than I can remember when I was a kid for like, just like, showing off in class. I've just always been a little bit of like a show off and just a performer, and so it's like, you're kind of asking for it, but I do think there is like, if anyone ever comes up to me, and it's not, I mean, it's easy for me to say because we never got like famous to the point where like anywhere we went, someone knew who we were, but like someone like John Cena. maybe it gets to a point where it's like maybe there's like a tipping point where you're like, okay, I literally can't live my fucking life. Like,
right.
I remember like hanging out when we were on the American Idiot tour with Green Day, and they had like each guy had their own security guard, and they had a whole system. Like it was almost like, like when there used to be like the orange alert and things like that for like threat levels.
Oh yeah.
They had a whole system like that where like we'd be in a city and they'd be like, yeah, this is an orange alert city. So we can't, like, they would have like death threats because of like the song American Idiot.
Oh
yeah. Jesus. Okay.
I guess that
and
was,
they'd be like, we can't go in public here, or
can't go to this restaurant.
You can go in public here, but you have to have your bodyguard with you, or this place is fine. You can walk down the street, and I remember they'd be so excited. Like I was with, their bass player, Mike, I'm totally name dropping, but like we were in, I remember we were in Vancouver and he was like, dude, you want to go on a walk? And of course I want to go on a walk with a guy from Green Day. That's fucking fun. Like,
sure.
And we just like walked and found like a music store. And he was just excited because it was like a safe place where he could like just go and probably not be punished or recognized. And of course, when we got in the music store,
right,
the people there were like, hey, is it cool if we take a picture with you? And that's understandable.
Sure.
It's like,
that's welcome.
Yeah. And it was just like, but there were certain places where like, I remember this one place they wanted to go to this music store in I think it was in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it was either Cincinnati or Cleveland, but I remember really well because there was a venue that we used to play called Bogart's. I think it was Cincinnati, and across the street was a dive bar laundromat where they would have punk rock shows. So like punk bands would be playing in the dive bar while you're waiting for your clothes to wash. It was such a great concept.
Okay.
And you just go there and have like cheap beer and do your laundry.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And there was a great music store right next to it called Mike's Music. And I think we all went there with Green Day. They invited us and we'd pile into a little shuttle van and went over there, and they like closed the store. Like they're like, people got out and like talked to them, and they like kind of temporarily closed the store so that we could just cruise around, and like the guys in Green Day could just like shop and like check out the guitars without feeling like every 2 seconds someone's like coming up to them. And it was kind of thrilling for us to just see like, wow, that must be wild to, but yeah, I don't know.
I'll tell you, Eric and I, we were in New York back in July. We went to we had Bill Sherman on the show, who co-wrote Hamilton with Lin-Manuel Miranda. And he has a Broadway show out that he did music for called Anne Juliet. And we were like, hey, we're going to be in New York. And he's like, well, go check out my show. And then the night after, we were going to the 20th anniversary of Just Surrender, their concert. And we were at this little dive bar after the show. And granted, we just had on Jay from Just Surrender on the show, but someone came up and she was like, "Oh my God, you're the two from the podcast."
That's awesome.
Oh,
No, stop it.
Oh, come on.
What do you want me to sign?
Yeah.
And that was the only
You're
time
just
that
like,
ever happened. And like, that was, that made me feel good.
It was nice.
It's
It was
cool.
nice. It
More
was
of
super
that.
targeted. It was
Now I need
super
more
targeted.
of that in my life.
But,
Yeah.
but it's honestly, it is nice to be recognized literally and figuratively. It's nice for someone to, especially if they're like, hey, I like your podcast. You guys do a great job. It's like, you guys put a lot of time and effort and work into this. And it feels good to get recognition, and, again, like, for me, again, it's easy for me to say, cause I'm not like Travis Barker. I'm not like a celebrity where everywhere you go, someone's going to notice me or recognize me. But like anytime anyone's ever come up to me, I was like happy to indulge. Like, you want to take a picture? You want to sign something?
Right.
It was just like, it was such a, it was like an honor to be like, have someone come up to you and tell you that your band meant something to them. Or, I mean, who doesn't want to hear that? It's like, and so I was like, this is what I'm here for. I'm not here to like play a show and then just go hang out and drink with my friends. I'm here to be the guy from Sugarcult as long as we're here and we're playing the show, we're hanging out in the crowd afterwards, we're talking to fans afterwards. And it's, just like, to me, that's just part of the gig. It's like, I used to be, because I go back to when I was a kid, and it's like, the bands that just gave me even a little bit of the time of day and just treated me with a little bit of like, wow, that person was nice. They exceeded my expectations, and my expectations was just like, maybe they'll like, let me take a picture with them,
Right.
And like, you never forget that for the rest of your life, and the few that sort of big timed you or treated you like, kind of treated you like garbage, you never forget that either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's funny. We went to probably 10 years ago when the Taste of Chaos was still a thing, and Dashboard Confessional were headlining, right? And I've known who Dashboard, for a very long time, but I've never really been like super into them. It hasn't been my jam. But we went and we got like the VIP tickets, and Chris Carrabba did an acoustic set, and then he did like a meet and greet with everyone, and we ended up talking to him for like 15 minutes, and he told us he used to be like a special education teacher before he got into music, and I gained so much respect for him. And then when Dashboard actually played, it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. And I don't know if it was just because like how cool he was, and it was also like they were really fucking good. But then like
you were amped too.
Yeah. So then it was like
Chris Carrabba is a real one. That guy he's so cool. And I know this sounds like sort of corny to say, but I do feel like people who have like roots, who came from like basement punk shows and hardcore communities, and then become successful, it just always hits a little different. You know what I mean? You hang out with Dave Grohl. It's just like, you don't feel like you're hanging out with someone who has hundreds of millions of dollars. You feel like you're just hanging out with some dude from Virginia who fucking drinks Coors Light out of a can. You know what I mean?
Right.
Green Day, same
that's
thing.
That's so
it's
funny
like,
you say that about
all these
him.
people. Like I remember encountering Flea from the Chili Peppers as one. I think people who come from an underground music cultures where like the odds of you achieving commercial success were so slim to none that it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't even feel like your career was on some trajectory. You just felt like, I'm just doing this because, and then the culture caught up with you, and you ended up, success kind of found you. You didn't go look for it. And that's so vindicating to give you a little Dashboard treatment there. But there's a vindication in feeling like, well, I was just doing this just because, and then a lot of people started caring about it. And of course, I'm not going to like say no to that. Like, let's fucking go. Let's go play bigger shows. Let's go make bigger, fancier sounding records. And like, it's just so cool. And I mean, honestly, I think every musician, I'm being kind of biased to people who come from like underground scenes like punk rock and hardcore, but like, I do think like this might be too sort of fucking kumbaya Pollyanna of me, but I do think any musician that's ever achieved any modicum of success, had to go on some kind of a hero's journey that is worthy of recognition and at least like respect. It's like some people will be like, oh, Ariana Grande is a rich girl who was on who was a teen star on a TV show. And you're like, fair enough. But, she's the one who had to say, Mom, can you sign me up for musical theater? And had to be good enough at it that eventually her parents were probably like, maybe we should get her an agent and like fucking maybe she drive her to an audition for like Nickelodeon. And then she got the gig and then she fucking did that. And then she's like, I want to make records. And people were like, you can't make records. You're like a TV person. That's going to be. Right. And then she still made the records and she had to go in the vocal booth and cut those vocals and choose those songs. And, it's like, no one, Taylor Swift, one, there's a lot of snobbery in the music community. And I think it's silly because to me, it's like, I mean, not to get too out there, but like, it's like the way they divide the left and the right and they kind of pit people against each other. Like you're this and you're that. You realize what it is. It's like, there's really no, like the greater good is more that when you see like, hey, people who came from punk roots or people who are from the pop scene or people from different, hip hop, there are people who would be like, oh, DJs aren't real musicians. They're just pushing buttons. Yeah, but that's like saying a guitar is not a real instrument because you're just plucking strings. It's like you're just taking a thing and you're finding a way to use it to make music. You know what I mean? So like it's an instrument, you know? This is a fucking instrument right here. If I play it the right way.
Give that to Charlie Puth and you have three albums.
3 hit singles.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I know. Right? I mean, dude, fucking Charlie Puth is a beast. I mean, and so it's like, I don't even know what I'm talking about here, but I think
if all of this was so easy, like people can hate all they want, but if this was so easy, why doesn't everyone do it? Because they can't, because the people that have made it and that are making a difference or that are doing this real stuff are different. As Greg would say, built different.
They're built different. But you know what? Look, it's like when people are making millions of dollars streaming themselves playing video games. And people bitch, that's not a real fucking job. But they're making more money than you. And it wasn't like they just, I mean, some people you get lucky and you put a camera on. But like most people, the time and effort you have to put into doing even something like that to hone that skill and that craft and build your audience, build your people. Like
their characters themselves.
Yes, right. It takes a lot of time. Just like people who do TikTok and YouTube. Like I keep getting these videos that pop up of these two people that dance. And they just dance. Like that's what they do. They're very good dancers, but they have like 20 million followers and I'm sure they're making a fuck ton of money, right? And like who is anyone else to judge? Or I think it's just jealousy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that there's just, inherent to sort of human nature, there's always going to be like a certain, and I think also it's misguided maybe personal dissatisfaction, like maybe you're just unsatisfied with the way your life's turning out and you want to sort of externalize it and be like, well, it's the reason why my life sucks is all because of Eric.
This motherfucker.
And, if I had $1 for every time like I heard
sort
that.
Of like create some like, someone to blame and or just people get kind of salty. Like, kids today don't make music. The real music was blah 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 in my day, and
back
people
in my
get calcified, and they sort
when
of. When
I was a kid in high school, my mom.
I think that's a dangerous. I don't want to sound preachy, but I definitely think that like I definitely caution against the temptation or like to sort of resist the tidal sort of pull to get like that, where you sort of get this like, you're like sort of set in your ways, like, well, my version of the way things should be is, you have to be, be a little bit intellectual and be like, okay, the reason my version of it is because that's what was precious to me when I was 16, and then I baked that into the cake and brought that with me into my life. So therefore, anything that doesn't look like that or smell like that or sound like that is going to be, in my perception, wrong. And that's like counterintuitive to the spirit of creativity and progress and art. I think we need to keep moving forward. And I think there's so much to be learned from. I mean, it's like, what's the word they say? It's like, things are like sedimentary, that it's like the layers of they get built on top of the others. So it's like what was here in the 80s then got built on by the 90s and got built on. It's like if you drill into the ground and then do like a soil test, you're going to see like, okay, this was the decayed remains of the tree leaves that fell 10 years ago, and now they've been mulched into soil, and then they grew this, and so it keeps. That's sort of what it's like. It's like all these different layers, and you can't be like attached to one version of it. You got to just kind of go for the ride. And like he said so wisely, it's like 100 years from now, no one's going to remember we ever existed anyway. So why not just kind of go, just stay curious and kind of be like, hey, this is interesting, and at the same time, like I work with a lot of younger people because I've been doing a lot of like teaching kind of things and mentoring. And I'll be talking to someone who's like 20 years old who wants to play music. And I'm like, they have just as much to teach me we're constantly like, I'll be like, they'll play something and I'll be like, dude, that reminds me of like, have you ever checked out like Bright Eyes? Or like, and I'll show them something and they'll be like, no, I had no idea that existed. And they'll play me like, Phoebe Bridgers and turn me on to that. And then I'll play them Elliott Smith and they'll be like, oh my God, this is Phoebe Bridgers. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. But it doesn't mean Phoebe Bridgers doesn't matter just because she was influenced by Elliott Smith. Because Elliott Smith was influenced by fucking Neil Young and George Harrison, and they were influenced by Chuck Berry and Little Richard, and they were influenced by, whoever came before them. And we're just part of this unbroken chain, and it just keeps going. So like I'll use the fact that I've been around. I've had, more trips around the sun than them, not as like a high and mighty high horse and be like, well, I was in a famous band and I'm older than you, so you should just listen to everything I say. It's more like, dude, let me tell you some rad stories from back in the day of what it used to be like. So you can kind of marvel at like, wow, that's wild that it used to be like that. And it's like, it's not like that now. That doesn't mean it used to be better. But it just used to be different. And I love like hanging out with old people. Like I love talking to like, if I'm talking to someone who's in their 80s or 90s, I rarely just like treat them like like you can sort of be a little condescending almost, like, hey, can I get you some tea? It's like, fuck no, get me a fucking whiskey. Like, and let me tell you, it's like, how about if I get you a fucking whiskey and you tell me what it was like in 1949? Like, that's what I want to know.
Ask
tell me
what
it was like before Elvis showed up.
Then?
Like, what was it like to be young? And then when Elvis, if I'm talking to your grandparents or your great grandparents, like I'm going to ask them what about shit that it's just going to blow my mind. Like, where were you when the Beatles first fucking came on TV? Tell me about that shit.
Well, and that's how you hear those. I heard a story, and I think it was Alice Cooper, and I don't know if you heard this, but Elvis gave him a loaded 38 Smith & Wesson back before Elvis was like all like, like this was before obviously the end. And I guess Alice Cooper was like the early 70s. And he was like, you're the guy that you wear the makeup. He's like, I love what you're doing. Can I show you something? So he's like, yeah, okay. So he said, I'm going to show you how to take a gun away from somebody. And apparently pulls out a gun and gives it to him. And then he like disarmed him and then like stepped on his head and handed him this like 38 revolver. Yeah, man.
Hit him with the Krav Maga.
Yeah, I don't know. And I, it has to, I think he was talking to like Howard Stern or some, I don't know. It just happened. So cool. It popped up on TikTok. So there you go.
Wow.
There you have it.
I'm going to look that up.
Oh, now maybe you are missing something by not being on TikTok.
Yeah, right. You're missing all the cool stories, man.
I was at something, it was years ago. This dude I knew like had an inn. He was like, dude, you want to go to this thing with me? And I think I like gave him a ride to it in exchange for like getting in on his coattails. And it was like, it was like some sort of all-star jam type of thing. They called it the Hollywood Vampires. It's like Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp, maybe like, I don't know. It was like a grab bag of dudes from other bands, but playing covers at some weird little event. And I somehow weaseled my way into the dressing room, and which was just like under the stage, kind of this like, it looked like it was just this big empty, kind of open room it was really well lit. And I just see Alice Cooper with his, makeup on and his black clothes on. And, he's like old as fuck, but like there he is, and he's talking to this other really old guy who's like even older, with just straight up like grandpa looking dude. And I noticed, I was like, oh my God, that's the fucking guitarist. That's Robbie Krieger. That's the guitarist of the Doors. And I see Alice Cooper talking to him, and they're just in this great conversation. And I was like, again, I was in that moment where I'm like, you're like, do I just let John Cena eat his fucking dinner?
Right,
and then I was like, well, you know what? I'm here, and like, I don't feel like I'm not catching them in public. They're not like out to dinner together. I'm like, we're backstage at a fucking thing. It's a social environment.
Right.
And so I kind of just sauntered over there and just was like, hey guys, I don't want to interrupt or anything, but like, maybe I was just like, maybe can we get a picture together? And I have a great picture. It's probably on my Instagram somewhere. Anyway, then I just sort of sat there, and like I just got to sort of stand there, and they're like, yeah, we're just talking about, they're like, what's your name? They're like, cool. And then I'm like, have you guys known each other forever? And he's like, oh, hell yeah. The Alice Cooper band used to come out here from Detroit, and they would sleep at the Doors house. And, we would go over there, and Frank Zappa and all his friends would come over, and Frank Zappa really wanted to produce these guys, but they had their own ideas, and they were just telling me all these. I was like, oh my God, I'm hanging out with two like elderly legends that are like catching up about the good old days of the late 60s. Before Alice Cooper was like a superstar, he was like a kid from Detroit with a wild idea and come out to LA and like sleep on their couch and like do whatever he had. And I'm just hearing about this era. I'm hearing about the like late 60s, like riot on the Sunset Strip, just all this shit you've only ever like maybe read about in books or seen in old movies. And they're like, we would go to the Whiskey a Go-Go and just this, that, and the other, and who else was on the scene. And it was just blowing my mind. I was just geeking out so hard. I'm just like, man, I don't want this to fucking end. I had another similar situation once where we play a festival it's actually also related to the Doors, kind of weird. We played a festival in Japan, and the Doors were on the bill, but they had the singer Ian Astbury, the singer of the Cult, as their singer, because he like kind of sounds like Jim Morrison. And so he was like, and it sounded great. Like he was the perfect guy. And I've always been really intimidated by like those old British bands from the 80s, like The Cure and Depeche Mode and the Cult. They just always seem like they're from another planet, And somehow we ended up sharing a shuttle from the airport to Japan, or like from Japan back to the airport. Somehow I had a moment where I was sitting next to him for like an hour. We were both sitting in a van next to each other, and I just started talking to him, and it was like this. It was like, I was like, God, I wish I could turn a camera on and turn it into a podcast.
Right.
It was just talking to him, and he just had he was so smart and so fucking cool and so real and just like so intellectual. He was just like, I was like, man, he's just like telling me these stories about, because he's probably in his like early to mid 60s. So he's just like, he saw the Sex Pistols, he saw the Damned, he saw the Clash. Like he was in England when that shit was fucking happening. And then he like dreamed about America and dreamed about the Ramones and dreamed about the New York Dolls and dreamed about and he also like lived in Canada. So he had this like other side to him that was kind of made him an outcast even amongst British people, because he had like grown up in Toronto or something. He's just the most interesting dude. And we exchanged numbers. Then I chickened out, never called him.
But Marko, like that's a genius podcast idea. Just talking about these stories, like
just tell these stories.
Like people could sit there and listen for hours.
I got the name for it. Okay, Secondhand Smoke.
Hey,
boom, there it is. Like that's it, man.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Fully endorse everybody doing a podcast if they want to do it too.
And then I could go find those guys. Like I'd reach out to him and be like, dude, do you remember meeting me years ago? We sat on it, and he'd be like, oh, fuck, I don't really remember, but yeah, that was crazy when I was with the Doors. And he would like start telling some other story, you know.
Or you gaslight him and tell him all this crazy shit that he said.
Yeah, you.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, dude,
do you remember?
So it was kind of weird.
You did all that illegal
do you
shit?
Remember you sort of you kind of touched my leg, like you kind of put your hand on my leg for like a
little
really,
bit.
Like it was a little bit inappropriate because like you kind of like brushed up against my leg, but then you like started sort of giving me like a little bit of a thigh massage, and I just kind of went with it. But you know, I'm just wondering,
fine,
like, where,
bro.
After
like,
all these years, I
where
still
were you
think
going
about
with all that? Yeah. Another story with that same era is you just reminded me is when we were in England. I told you we were in England with Blink-182, and that was a wild story in and of itself because Death Cab for Cutie was supposed to be the support band for that tour, and that tour ended up being the last tour they did before they all just broke up. Remember when like they all broke up?
Oh yeah.
This was like self-titled record that you know. Then they broke up, so it was right before, and I could sort of sense it at the time. I was like, each guy was like, dude, Mark's such a cool dude. And we'd hang out and talk about music. Then I'd be like, Tom's such a cool dude. We hang out and talk. And then it'd be like, Travis is such a cool dude. He's got his gym in his fucking dressing room and he's hanging out, you know. And then I realized, I was like, it kind of feels like we're on tour with three separate bands. We're on tour with this band called Tom, this band called Mark, and this band called Travis. But the only time I ever saw them together was when they were on stage. But then it was like they had their own little universe, their own dressing room, their own entourage. And I kind of, it didn't like completely surprise me when they came back from that tour and kind of broke up. But at the London shows of that tour at Wembley Arena, Robert Smith from The Cure was there because they had him sing on some song, I think, on that record.
Yeah, they did.
And so he came out to be like the special guest and sing that song with them. And it was like so exciting. Like, but he was like done up with his like Robert Smith, like lipstick and the whole thing and the eyeliner and his hair all crazy.
Yeah.
And he was there. And I went up to him. I was like, dude, can I just get a picture with you real quick? Like I was in the opening band. And he was like, yeah, mate. And then he's like, actually, do you know where I could find like some wine? And then I'm like, we got some in our dressing room. And so I ended up going backstage with Robert Smith, like walking down the hallway, getting a bottle of wine. And then I thought I was just going to like pour him a glass. And then he's like, aren't you going to have some? And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, of course.
Sure will.
Like, and then we like just sat down and just like, I was just trying to be cool. Like I didn't want to punish him, but you know,
right.
But then he just like, we sat down and I ended up like talking for like fucking 40 minutes,
That's
you know,
awesome.
and it was just so cool. I was about to have my first kid. I was like, or I think we had just had my first kid. I can't remember. We were like just about to have a kid I think it was right before we had our first kid. And I was talking to him about kids and he was like saying how he never had kids, but his brother or sister had kids and he was like super into being an uncle and talking. It was just so weird. I'm like talking to this fucking guy with lipstick who's a music legend, but like within about 5 minutes, he just became some like British guy talking about life with me. And it was such a trip, man. It was like, I mean, like you can't not look at him and be like, I'm talking to the singer of The Cure right now because he's so iconic. But like, we were talking about like anything but music. We were just talking about life. And he was telling me how he's been with the same girl, like his whole life, pretty much. Like his wife today, he's been with since he was in his like early 20s. And every song by The Cure that you think is like a song about like loss or like, you know, love not working out is actually a song about like his, like, they're all like kind of love letters to her. And then you go back and listen to their songs and you're like, oh shit, I've been looking so long at these pictures of you that I almost believe that they're real. It's not because they died. It's because he's on tour and he wishes he was with his wife or whatever. It's like, he's like such a fucking romantic. And it's it's also a trip because everything about him, like, you're like, are you sure you're married to a woman? Because you've got like lipstick and eyeliner on and you're like sitting here having a glass of wine with me, like, and like you kind of like making like unbroken eye contact with me the whole time, you know? But you know, it was
We're
awesome.
looking for a woman
Which
women's glass is this?
I know. It was, it was, I don't know. I'm like, I mean, obviously you're picking it up from me from, you know, is like I said, like, I'm just a fucking fan that just got into this thing. And so like for me, like to get in a band and go out there and have these experiences was such a fucking cool just kind of bonus, because it's like you have this weird like pass where you can get into situations that normally fans wouldn't be invited to. And you just had this like, kind of it was really fun. And also a lot of people that I think are cool are, the people in the slightly more like either obscure bands or the bands that people aren't that aren't the like, girl of the moment. So like we'd be at a Reading festival and everyone would be talking about, and of course we're friends with the Used and all the bands that were our contemporaries, be like hanging out with Bert and all them. Everyone would be like, Bert, come talk to me. And then I would see like the guys in Primal Scream, this band from the UK, and like no one wanted to talk to them. And I'm like, can I go up and say hi to you guys? And and I was so intimidated. And they'd be like, fuck yeah, mate. You want some beers? Let's go. And then bring me into their dressing room. And it's like the guy from the Stone Roses, the guy from My Bloody Valentine, the guy from Primal Scream, and I'm like, dude, this is like, I have these guys all to myself because no one really fucking cares about them right now.
That's probably cooler than what you were looking for anyway.
It was so fucking cool. So cool.
That
Anyways,
used to be like some of my favorite, though, going to these smaller shows and getting to talk to like, I miss small local shows here in Delaware, because you would get like 5 bands for $15-20 and then the unexpected fire opener, right? And like no one wanted them. They all wanted, Bring Me the Horizon or, whoever. And then I would go and be like, oh my God, you guys were so good. And then they'd sell you their EP for $4 that they clearly and then like seeing, I think it was Set It Off. And then now I see them and I'm like, oh my God, they're fucking like pretty big now. And I remember like them just walking through, grinding it out in the crowd, and we paid nothing to see them. And like, that's the shit that I love. Like getting to hang with those individuals is fucking awesome.
Well, and then the other side to that is like getting to meet, like what you're saying, where you meet someone when they're like at the dawn of their thing, and then you watch them just so like become like legends. So like you just reminded me, one of the first tour we ever really did, the first proper tour, was the Warped Tour 2001. And on that tour, we became friends with like a lot of the bands. So it was like, then we were just like, please, someone take us on tour. And there was a tour going out. It was Goldfinger and Real Big Fish. And they brought us out as the opening band. So that was like our first like proper tour, playing like venues rather than like Warped Tour, which is more festival. And so we did that in, I guess in maybe the winter of 2001, or maybe it was like shortly after the Warped Tour, the fall or winter of 2001. And when we played some shows in Utah, there was like 2 or 3 shows in Utah. There was this weird like thing where it was like, oh, by the way, John, Feldman from Goldfinger is like, he's looking at this band that have been like Goldfinger fans forever. And he's like kind of helping them out right now. So they're going to be an extra opening band. So of course, like we were the opening band and now they were also the opening band. So we like got sort of stuck in the same little like small bands dressing room area. And we met these guys and they were just like pretty much teenagers, and they were called Used. Right. And we watched them play, and dude, they were absolutely, it was just that thing where like, there was just no doubt about it. You're like, that guy is a fucking star. That guitar player is playing things on guitar I've never heard anybody play before. And that, the drummer and the bass player are just fucking like, they just were so good and so raw and so real. And Bert was just this fucking crazy kid who was just this wiry kid, just like, he just emptied the tank, and his fucking, he would like throw up on stage and the whole thing. He was just like, it was so crazy. And then after they were done playing, they were out in the crowd with a like empty plastic beer pitcher that said like tips, like they were like basically sparing for change because they weren't getting paid.
Right.
He was just kind of doing them a solid, like, hey, I'll throw you on as the opening band. And they were just like, I think I put $5 in their thing, and they were just like sparing for change. And they had like one little shirt they were selling. And I think our bass player, Aaron, bought the shirt off of them, and then he wore it. And if you watch in our Bouncing Off the Walls video, if you watch it carefully, you see Aaron's got a shirt. It just says Used. It's just like in white print on a black shirt. It's a fun little Easter egg
That's awesome.
I love that.
They've had to have been so hype when they saw that.
Yeah. And it was like, and then they started to sort of like, we were like, oh, remember that band from Utah? They got signed and now they're called The Used. And then we got paired up with them on the Warped Tour 2002. By then they had a record, their first record had just come out, and they were on the Warped Tour. And the sort of what they call the baby bands, like you can't usually afford to have your own bus, so they would like pair us up. So there was 3 bands on one bus. There was our band, Sugarcult. Then there was their band, The Used, which was cool because we had like met them before. So it was like, yeah, you guys, no way. Like, we had already kind of broken bread with them. And then there was a band from Israel called Useless ID that were on Fat Records. And they were like, they had like dreadlocks, and they were all like ex-military, and they were like more like a sort of political kind of punk band. Then you have The Used. I was like, this is so wild. You got these like, we're like these guys from Southern California, and we're sharing a bus with two people who grew up in like extremely like religious parts of the world.
Right.
A band from Israel and a band from Utah. And meanwhile, we're just like, is it cool is it going to bother you guys if we like fucking drink? Cause we're gonna fucking drink.
What are the rules
and they were like,
here?
yeah, it's only going to bother us if you don't share it with us. And we're like, yay. So we're all, hanging
cool.
out. But like, anyways, again, a testament to the power of music to sort of just like it just becomes this like universal language where it doesn't matter like if there's language, like if we don't speak the same language or grow up in the same culture or believe the same shit or whatever. It's just like, it's kind of rad that you're just like, we're musicians and we're on tour and we're fucking, there's just that like inherent respect. Like we're all people who live outside the law and have fucking joined the circus. So let's fucking celebrate let's kind of fly our freak flags together here, And it was cool, but we watched The Used just blow up. Like you just watched every show just got a little bigger to the point where it was almost ridiculous that they were playing on the like smaller stage. And it was so fun to watch because also at the same time we're getting to know them as people because we're sharing a bus with them. And it was like you sort of see the inner band dynamics and the inner sort of like, okay, this person has a thing about that person and that person, and then just to watch their thing unfold. And it was also kind of vindicating because like, I just remember feeling like I felt that feeling when I first saw them play where I was like, it was specifically Bert, where I was like, that guy is destined to be a star. And then of course he became this like generation kind of torchbearer that like ushered in the sort of screamo era, know what I mean? He was just like the chosen one. And he had, and I remember when we first heard My Chemical Romance, maybe a couple years later, it was like, oh, the man from New Jersey, and they're and they reminded me a lot of The Used, and then, I know Gerard like really like took a liking to Bert. And I think because our bass player Aaron was really good friends with Bert, and I think he said that Gerard used to like rent a closet in Bert's apartment for like $150 a month, and he was like living there when he'd stay in LA, which is kind of wild. And then you watched My Chemical Romance, who just seemed like the like kids from New Jersey that were like trying to keep up with The Used. Then you just saw them like catapult way past The Used and become like one of the biggest bands of all time. And now, like, I mean, I live pretty close right now to Dodger Stadium, and like they just played 2 sold out shows at Dodger Stadium. Like, wow. I don't know, over the summer.
Yeah, they were just here. They played at Citizens where the Phillies play in Philadelphia. And I think, ironically enough, Alice Cooper opened that show.
Oh my God, that's
They
wild.
had a different opener every show, I think, for that tour. And I think we just missed Death Cab, where like, I really love Death Cab. And I was like hoping that, I was like, damn, I mean, like Alice Cooper's cool, but like, I really want to see Death Cab. But they sold out, and it sold out like, it was that's like insane. Getting the tickets,
fucking scalpers.
And then I think added another show like the next night, and that sold out immediately. And then I ended up not going. Yeah. And then my wife went with a friend, and I stayed home. And but
Greg, you do cool. Like not going to stuff.
That's one of the fun things. It's one of the fun sort of like unforeseen kind of byproducts of being in this culture is just getting to see people early on, demonstrate just a little like glimmer of promise, and then watch that actually like cultivate into something that, inspires a whole bunch of people. And then maybe like some time goes by, like, I mean, fuck, next year will be the 25-year anniversary of our first record and the 20th anniversary of our third record. It's like, you stick around long enough, you get to see something in its early, days, in its peak era when it's like actually happening. And then there's this like time goes by and things get like mythologized and become kind of assigned to like legendary status. And it's like, it's weird to see that, having been a fan for so long of other eras, where you see like, oh man, like you see pictures of the Clash and you're like, God, that looked like such a cool time. Like where you see pictures of like, Jimi Hendrix or Led Zeppelin or something. And now you can like see pictures from the Warped Tour 2004 and it feels like that. It feels like this bygone era that was like when everyone was just out there like going through the forest with a machete and clearing the path. And now here they are, everyone's in, Fall Out Boys playing big places and Green Day's playing stadiums. And I mean, it's fucking wild, man. It's really fun and it's really inspiring. It's just, we're living through history as it's being made right now. Like, go back to Paul McCartney and the Rolling Stones. I don't think any of those people that are now in their 80s would have thought that anyone was going to give a fuck about this shit, even 10 years later. Let alone 20 years later, let alone 60 plus years later. You know what I mean? So who knows where all this is going to go? Who knows where Bring Me the Horizon is going to go? Right. I mean, there could be a band right now that's starting in your neighborhood that is going to be the next stadium band. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, we romanticize nostalgia heavily, and we love it. And that's like, I have this theory about. You ever hear somebody say, oh, well, music back in my generation was the best, and they just don't make good music anymore? Let me tell you, they used to make a lot of suck-ass music 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But guess what you don't hear anymore? That suck-ass music that they played 40 fucking years ago. You only hear the good stuff. But if you think back, there's plenty of there's amazing music from every generation now, 40 years ago, however many years ago you want to go back. But we like the things that we know are good and we know we enjoyed back then. So there's always going to be that hint of just like prejudice to when we're growing up.
It's like, okay, I used to love Lunchables back in the day. Okay. My kids eat them for lunch now sometimes. And I tried the pizza one. Holy God, it was horrible. It tasted so bad. And it was like that, I think that nostalgic, those rose-colored glasses where like, I loved it back in the day, but like not everything was sweet, which is...
Well, Greg, let me introduce you to charcuterie boards.
Yes. Charcuterie boards, yes, but also
adult
Lunchables.
Day, if you were a kid and your mom would have given you like something on a charcuterie board, like some of the cheese or some of the like, prosciutto or something, you might have been like, oh my God, this is fucking disgusting. Lunchables. Now it's like reversed.
Yeah,
right. When I was a kid, I hated fish. I hated avocados. It's like, and those are probably like in my top 5 of things I love now. It's like,
so good.
And taste evolve. And then there's music maybe you love that when you were a kid and you go back and you listen to it now and you're like, and then there's some stuff that I sort of dismissed when I was a kid or I skipped over that now I'll go back and listen to it and I'm like, oh my God, like this is fucking awesome.
I mean, I remember being so wet for crabcore when that was like the the mid 2000s, like that was my shit.
Wait, Greg, I don't know what crabcore is, but please tell me it's dudes just going.
No, it's like it was a very specific type of hardcore music where they would essentially bring their legs down and get super close to the ground and just kind of bounce up and down, and they looked like crabs.
Oh, okay.
And it was it was a thing for like a year and a half. It was like Attack, Abandon All Ships, like all of those kind of bands where the music was fine, but they all did the same crabcore, move. And like now I'll go back and listen to some of the music and I'm like, ooh, I can't do it. I can't. But then there's other stuff that I'll go back and listen to. And I'm like, man, this shit still slaps really fucking hard. And I'm discovering, I started when we scheduled you for the show, I went back and started listening to Sugarcult, which I haven't done in a little while. And those albums still fuck. Like, they're still so good, you know?
Thank
so
you.
it is nice going back and like, just not even, it's like rediscovering it. Cause I'm like, oh, I forgot about this song. This was my shit, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's like movies. Like every once in a while, you'll be like, "Oh man, I haven't watched Goodfellas in a while," and then you'll like watch it. Even though there's all these new things you can watch, you'll go back and watch like, you know, I don't know, Pulp Fiction or just something that's like old, and you sort of, as your life unfolds, you know, you see it through different eyes.
Yeah.
And you catch things that you didn't catch before, you know. And I find that some of our fans will be like, maybe when they were 15 listening to our records, their favorite songs were, you know, Memory and She's the Blade and, you know, Bouncing Off the Walls or, you know, Stuck in America. But now they'll go back and listen to it with a little bit of life under their belts. And they might gravitate to songs like, you know, I Changed My Name or Lost in You or Back to California or like, you know, The Investigation, like other songs that like maybe when you're younger, like, oh no, don't play the fucking slow song.
Next.
And then now you're like,
right.
Now you're like, dude, I want to hear that. That's kind of cool. And that's what, you know, again, that's why I think this is really a lifelong, it's a lifelong kind of ride to go on, you know, when you you know, maybe it's a good idea, like if there's a book you love, to like read it every like 15 years, read it every 10 years.
Yeah.
Movie you love, like I think everyone should have their own little, like a couple little touchstones that they kind of the cultural things where you're like, I'm going to go back and listen to that record. And you're gonna, it's a way to, it's kind of a way to, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's an interesting way of like checking in with yourself and being like, wow, this record that used to hit me so hard, this time it just didn't hit me at all. I guess I've outgrown it. And that's maybe a beautiful thing because it means you're fucking evolving. Or, wow, that record that used to be my least favorite record by that band is now my most favorite record by that band because I don't know it as well as the other ones. And the other ones I kind of wore out a little bit. So that's why I like that we sort of have a sleeper record. Like our record Lights Out was like our least popular record compared to Start Static and Palm Trees. But in my opinion, and I mean, I've you know, if I go back, and I don't go back and listen to our stuff that often, but you know, every once in a while there's an anniversary or something and you'll be like, oh, I want to go back and listen to that record. First of all, I'm really proud of those records. And it's not by accident. We worked really hard when we were making those records. I always like to make this point to people, and I mean, it's up to you guys to listen to them and decide for yourselves. But like one thing we really brought with us as an ethic while we were making those records was to make records that would like stand the test of time. And it's a hard thing to do in the moment. But what you have to do is go, okay, whenever possible, let's avoid that sort of gravitational pull towards, well, if we get this haircut, maybe we'll get on the cover of alternative press. Well, if we use this amp tone, maybe they'll play us on the same fucking radio show. And like, to make like more like decisions, to sort of step back and be like, let's not get seduced by like being the cool kids of the day, and let's try to be the like, maybe you're never the cool kids, maybe you're not the it girl, but you know, it's like you go back to your 10-year high school reunion and the sort of girl that no one was paying attention to in high school is now the most beautiful girl in the room, you know? And you kind of go, let's resist the temptation to make these like records that are like trendy, and let's just try to make like, honestly, like we were just like, we don't even identify as a pop punk band or anything. We were just like, we're just a rock and roll band. And so to me, it was like, let's make one of those records that like, and I think Jimmy Eat World is, you know, kind of our peers in this, where you go listen to Bleed American, or you listen to our record, Palm Trees and Power Lines, or Lights Out, or Start Static. It didn't age like a scene record where you're like, oh God, that was the year when everyone was doing this thing, or doing the crab pose, or doing the gent, or doing whatever the fucking screams. It was just like, they sort of play like if you ever put on like a Damn the Torpedoes by Tom Petty, or fucking, you know, just any fucking good, just all, or the Blue album by Weezer or just something like that, where you just put it on and it's like, there's a fucking record. You don't go, well, that's a record from that one fucking movement of time. Like, it's just a good record with good songs on
like,
it.
You don't want to hear somebody say, oh, that's so 90s, or...
I remember when everyone was doing this in 2011.
If everyone was doing it, why would you want to do it? Like,
well, you said it earlier.
We're all outsiders to begin with. The reason we started bands was because we weren't fucking accepted by the popular kids. You know what I mean? So
you said it earlier, where if musicians are supposed to be trailblazers, and if you just adapt to what everybody is wanting you to do, then you're never going to get anything new, and everything's going to be stagnant, and everything's going to start to suck until somebody breaks that curse and just does their own thing. I'm a firm believer if you just do your thing, I mean, hopefully you're talented in it and you're doing it well, but if you keep it and just keep at it, it will be appreciated by somebody. It might be too late. It might be after you're dead or something, but it won't be lost entirely.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that wholly.
Well, I think a good place to start, and unfortunately I got to go because I got to meet some pals, but I think a good place to start with anybody is try to do something. You start with start with yourself. Don't start with something that's external. Like, I want these types of people to like me, or I want this genre to include me, or I want this, make something that you wish existed. And then, kind of, I guess it's like the old saying, be the change you want to see in the world. So if you're like complaining that like no one ever makes records with fucking loud guitars anymore, make a fucking loud guitar record. Or everyone's making records with loud guitars. I wish someone would just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, be the change you want to see. And like when we first started Sugarcult, it was mostly like me and Tim commiserating about how unsatisfied we were with the bands that we either liked or didn't like. We were like, God, we love that band, but it's such a bummer the way they turned right and then took a left instead of taking a left here and then going down that street. Like, I wish they would have gone more that way. And then we'd talk about another band we liked, and we'd be like, oh, then we talk about bands we hated. We're like, God, I hate these fucking all these bands of this era. At the time when we started our band, there was what we call Sky is Falling metal, which was the precursor to Crab, I think, because the bass player would always look like the sky was falling. They'd be like down and kind of looking up. So we called it Sky is Falling metal. And we were just like, I don't want to be one of those bands. Like, I wish bands would have the spirit of punk rock, but not feel like they have to play the type of music that they believe is supposed to be. Like, the whole point of punk rock in my romantic vision of it was that it was like no rules. And then what happened was everyone started fucking following rules. Everyone was like, you got to sound just like this to be punk rock. It's got to fit in this fucking box. Right. And I was like, that's so not punk rock. Like, the least punk rock thing you could do is be punk rock.
You're doing the opposite.
It's like, I wish you could tap into the spirit and the energy and the attitude of punk rock, which is so fucking valuable. But then also there's something about like the craft of like writing cool, like catchy 3-minute songs. Like, it's just such a fun little like container. It's like handing a kid three colors of crayons and going, be creative. And it's just like, okay, we're going to do like guitar, bass, and drums and vocals. Let's go. Let's not try and like start some brand new fucking genre. Let's just make up good songs and give it some punk energy. And and also we would be like, God, bands look like such fucking dorks nowadays. Can't we I wish bands would look a little cooler. So we're let's look cool. Let's fucking write catchy songs, and let's, inject some fucking, let's not sand off the rough edges. Cause that's what we, basically we were like, let's form the band we wish existed. And we never really probably got there, but in our failed attempts to at least try to get there, we ended up with Sugarcult.
Well, Marko, thank you for
thank you for
this has been a lot of fun. So thank you.
Sorry I talked your ears off forever.
Feel free to
this edit
fantastic.
it up.
That's amazing. No editing needed.
Right, you guys.
Yeah, right.
Thanks again for having me. And if anyone, just maybe throw a link to my Instagram if anyone wants to reach out to me. Right now, I'm currently like on a inflicted social media kind of fast. I'm just trying to stay away from it for a little while, but every once in a while I'm jumping on. But
and we'll tag you in the we'll tag your socials in the
cool.
description
right
below. Cool.
All right, take care, you guys.
Man.
Thanks for listening to Daddies the Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, drop a review, and give us a like. We'll see you next time.